Thanks. Well, we may not have much of a meeting today. Is there anything you were interested in chatting about? Maybe particular issues or things you were interested in working on?
Yeah, I think I haven't scoured the repository yet since it's just interviews, other interviews recently.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, that's kind of a bit time taking. And yeah, I'll be glad if there's anything that I could help for the agenda that you've mentioned, right? For the post 1.0 or also the things that we need to do for the uh applying to Sandbox. Applying
Yeah,
to
yeah.
incubating, right?
Let me share my screen. Mhm. And I'll give you a link to um, kind of like, I've been making groupings of potential milestones of things we could work on in the future. And let me get this in chat real quick. There we go.
I see.
I'm still trying to work it out. Like I'm not quite sure how to group it, but I was just kind of making like a Porter minor patch 1.1, 1.2, etc. I'm not quite sure how to put the mix-ins too, but we also have mix-in work that would be great to have help with. The first release though I'd like to do after Porter here, first minor release, it's just a bunch of small issues that didn't quite fit into V1, but we'd like to fix. So a lot of these have very small scope, if that makes sense. They're not like huge features or anything, but we'd like to just, you know, get a bunch of bug fixes out. So like, for example, this one's pretty straightforward. So when you work with like the files that Porter has, like a porter.yaml or an installation.yaml, things like that, I found out that when you specify the schema type on a bundle, so in the porter.yaml, it actually doesn't build. So we have a field that's supported by Porter, this schema type, but if you actually put it in there, it doesn't work. So like there's just lots of like smaller bugs like this that that we need to address. And then we have some kind of larger, more useful things with both Helm and Terraform. So for example, sometimes for the mix-ins, usually it's a matter of like the command line tool that we're wrapping, like Helm or Terraform, supports a flag,
I
but
see.
we may be unconditionally setting the flag, and it may not be the correct flag to set every time. So in Helm, when you run Helm, we are always specifying the create namespace flag. But as this user is pointing out, not everyone has that permission, right? So in some cases, it makes more sense that that flag's turned off. So we were working through like, okay, well, we'll expose it as a Boolean that they can just set on the mixin, you know. Or another example that's a little more involved is for the Terraform mixin. Are you familiar with Terraform? I'm not terribly, but maybe you are.
Not yet, no.
Okay, yeah. So Terraform has a command that gets run at build time when you build the bundle called init. And what it does is if your Terraform file interacts with a certain cloud provider, like it interacts with you know, Amazon, or it interacts with the Postgres database, things like that, the init command will download the necessary plugins that you need in order to interact with these things. So before you actually run Terraform and call apply, you always need to call init to get these things. And we cache it inside the bundle. The problem that we run into is that at runtime, when you're installing the bundle, there are certain conditions where we will call init again.
Okay.
And usually that call works, but like one use case for bundles is being able to run a bundle and have everything inside that bundle that you need, and you don't try to download stuff just in time, from the internet, right? As you're running, you want to use the stored versions of the plugins and everything in your bundle. So like this would be great if you were interested in learning Terraform, of figuring out when init gets called, when it must be called, and when we don't need to call it, to kind of reduce how often we will re-download values when running Terraform. Anyway, so like if you're interested, I posted this in chat. Feel free to literally any of these, right? It doesn't matter which repository or whatever, but like the releases kind of indicate the order that we'd like to work on them. So like features may wait a little bit before we ship them, because I want to get all these bug fixes out first. But if there's anything you find interesting, let me know. I can help provide more context or anything like that.
Yeah. I mean, like, to be honest, I feel kind of conflicted, since I don't think that I have currently much over free time to work on Porter. So yeah, I was thinking that I would like to bite off some smaller issues, but I feel I was afraid that I really want to I guess make those issues still available for people who are first contributors to open source and Porter, so that they could buy that off instead of me.
Okay. I wouldn't worry about it. If you want to pick an issue and work on it and take a little bit of time with it, if you need to, like, that's not a problem. Usually the concern is like taking 3 issues at once and then preventing multiple issues from being worked on. It's perfectly fine to just pick one and say, I'd like to work on that. And, just take your time. If it takes a couple weeks or whatever, or if you run out of time and you decide to give the issue back, that's not a problem.
Sure, I'll try to get back to it. Thank you, Caroline.
Yeah. Hey, Stephen.
Hey, how's it going?
It's good. It's good. Happy to see you.
Yeah, this is my first Porter meeting since school started, and it's a little hectic, so it's running behind this morning.
Yeah. So since we don't really have a full crowd, we're kind of just talking about whatever people are interested in. But since you're here, I wanted to ask for pull request reviews.
Okay.
There's one for the operator and one
Okay.
for Kubernetes plugins. Like I was self-merging a lot of, like Dependabot pull requests where we're just increasing a dependency. It was a very straightforward change. Some of these I did make enough interesting changes in order to support updating the version that I just want a second pair of eyes, kind of make sure that they're good. They're not terribly interesting PRs, but and it gets you more review experience. So
Yep, I'll take a look at those today.
Okay, great. So overall for the V1 release, I'm super excited because I feel like we've been having people pick up and use it. If we look at some of our stats here, I love this little website. It'll tell me how many people have downloaded Porter. So our last V0 release was 38.13, and we got 2,700 downloads. That's of all the assets. Like obviously there's like Porter and the exec mixin, that's 2 downloads, right? If you add in an install script, that's 3. So these numbers, think of them more as relative when you compare them. But if we look at 1.0, we're here at 1,800. So like we're seeing pretty good uptick in people trying V1 comparable to how many people are on V0. So this is really encouraging to me.
Are you going to be at KubeCon?
No, are you?
Okay. I'm not, but we do have a booth. F5 has a booth there. Then I'm going to steal Brian's thunder since he's not here. but they came to him asking like, hey, can you help us with something? And so he threw together a Porter bundle to demo a new F5 product that they're going to be showcasing at KubeCon. And that's the whole platform for the demo is going to be just Porter install. And so I was going to say, if you're there, swing by and say hello. But maybe, is Ralph going to be there?
Yeah, Ralph will be there. Another person that it sounds like Brian will be there, right?
No, he's not. He just did the Porter bundle for the team.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, if they stop on the Microsoft group, we have Porter pins if people want to pick something up, you know,
Oh, okay.
anything like that, or if you don't have a pin yet, you know, have your coworkers grab some for you.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, we're definitely internally in F5. We're getting ready to, and one reason we've been kind of MIA lately is we've been really heads down trying to get our platform deployed before end of October.
Yeah.
But we're just about there, and then we'll have some more time to come back and, you know, start contributing again. But we're going to be doing a Porter Roadshow internal inside F5 just to go, you know, evangelize, get people using it, show them the benefits. We've got, you know, some slideware that we're going to go shove down people's throats, and kind of excited to, now that we're officially V1, increase the adoption.
Oh, that's amazing. I love hearing that. If you need anything from me, or if you want to share stuff anytime, you know, after the big push of getting stuff out, you know, feel free to demo something here. I think we actually have you, Brian, on maybe demoing some stuff that y'all are doing.
Oh yeah, we can definitely do that. And spoiler alert, we may have some Backstage.io integrations coming along soon. So
Yeah. Oh, that would be super interesting. I've never gotten my hands on Backstage yet, but it looks super cool.
Yeah, it's pretty slick.
Cool. So one thing I want to talk about real quick, but we don't need to like belabor too much, is the annual review for Porter. See if I've got that. Oh, you know what? Let me share a different screen. I've got this up here instead. There we go. So the annual review, the goal is to kind of compare where we were a year ago, where we are today, and if we're making progress in the right direction, and do we need any help, you know? So it's a little bit of tooting your own horn and a little bit of self-reflection, basically. You know, I'm not really big on stats, but these are some of the things that they asked for. We've definitely been going up and in the right direction, which is amazing. What I'm super excited about is that we have 3 new maintainers. I think at some point we're going to need to start instituting a policy of transitioning people who have been inactive for a long time and don't plan on coming back to do emeritus maintainers. But we don't really need to do that as a project until we get into the incubating stage. But it's just something to think about, because I know, like, for example, you know, Jeremy started the project, right? So his name's always on it in my heart, but he doesn't work on it anymore. But we're still doing well. Last year during our review, we had 3 active maintainers, and now we have 5. So it is looking good. F5 is being highlighted as one of our adopters. We're super proud of this. I was including links to some public info that we had about other adopters. So Stephen, if there's anything that you want me to include in here, like a link, or if you have a case study, anything public that you want included on here, we can add that to the review as well.
Okay, I'll bring that up on our side.
Okay. This doesn't need to be submitted until November, but if we can do it before then, that would be great, because otherwise they start harassing me and asking for updates on when this is coming out. But another really cool thing is, you know, Microsoft has been using Porter internally for quite a while, but I was never really allowed to talk about what we were doing because it wasn't quite public. But it finally went public last week at Ignite that the Azure Marketplace now uses bundles. So if someone wants to deploy to Azure Kubernetes Service, AKS, they can put that in a bundle, give it to Azure, and we'll deploy it that way. So that is pretty fun. So people right now are doing it to deploy Istio or like Elastic, like an Elk stack, which is fun. And then EY, Ernst & Young, is also using it quite happily to do deployments. So this is something that's really important for us, demonstrating that we're ready to move to the incubation phase or incubating phase, is that we have multiple large scale kind of like meaningful deployments of Porter and adopters of Porter. So it's good to see more people on here, and anything public always just helps kind of give us credence for what we're doing. So then there's a little bit of reflection. We were able to call out that we hit 1.0, which is great. We had been hoping to finish the operator, but it didn't happen for us this year. We're still hoping for early next year though. Once Yingrong is back, we should be able to make a lot more progress on this.
Do you have V1 milestones for the operator?
I've started to, but really I need your input, you and Brian, on that.
Okay.
We have, I've started to slot them here of things that we need. But it's not really like a hard list of like, we couldn't do a V1, but that's really what I want to do, is get a viable release out there that does things, for example, like clean up jobs after they're done running, things like that. We need to have it working a little bit more smoothly.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, hopefully we are going to have this, maybe November will be a month that we can really start coming back and focusing on things. That's what I'm really banking on.
Yeah, that would be amazing. I'd love to see, you know, Q1 next year that we're able to put something out there and tell people to really use it, and there's not going to be big gaps or anything like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yingmar made a ton of progress, and I've seen it work. We just need to finish up this PR. They said that we could finish it up for them as well. So if you have time, or when I get time, we can kind of get their pull request pushed through. But they have it working now where you can edit the agent config and specify what plugins you want installed.
Mm-hmm. I've been creeping on that MR just kind of like on my free time to see how that's moving forward.
Yeah. So we've seen it working. I think it's just a matter of like making sure we have tests and there aren't any other edge cases and it's fully documented. But I saw it work, which was super exciting. For me, that's like one of the super big ones. You know, the question of like the gRPC service, I don't think that is something that would go into 1.0. That'd be later, and we'd add more features.
Yeah, I agree. Although it is definitely, without the gRPC service, not having an easy way to consume outputs can be frustrating.
Yeah. Maybe the answer is we have a gRPC service that's not finished. So the gRPC isn't 1.0, it's just there, it provides access to outputs, and the operator uses it, but we don't tell other people to use the service.
Sure. Yep, that might be. Yep.
Yeah.
For some reason, outputs
like
just
one API.
That's just been quite the hurdle to jump over.
Yeah.
It sounds like it'd be so easy, but it has not been.
No, I understand. It's awkward. Yeah. Actually, let me just put that on here. Let's just make sure. Basically just enough for the V1 to work.
I
yeah,
really,
but
I
like this
really want
isn't,
that full gRPC
yeah,
service though. That's on my radar. That might be the next big thing I really dig my teeth into implementing.
please do. That would be great. That would just be so helpful.
Yeah,
Let's talk a little bit about the big things we're hoping to work on. So one is the operator, right? So what I'm working on is bundle workflow, being able to run multiple bundles and orchestrate passing data between the bundles. And it's kind of like, this is like a train here. Like, what can we ship in what order so that we can get to features we really want? So just being able to run bundles through a workflow is something that I'm hoping we can just get out and get into Porter so that we can then implement this security feature as soon as possible, which is executing mixins as bundles. I don't know if you're familiar with this proposal that was made last year, but it's just a huge security and performance improvement for Porter. So that instead of distributing just the mixin binaries and having people copy those into their bundles and kind of install them onto their machines, and obviously there's no versioning, right? That would solve all that by distributing the mixin inside of a bundle instead and running the mixin as a bundle. And this will allow us to do things like sign mixins. And for example, all the Porter mixins could be signed and verified when people run. They could check the signature, all sorts of stuff like that. If F5 had a mixin, you know, if you have custom stuff, again, you could make sure that you're using the exact version you want your bundle to use. You don't have to pre-install it or anything like that. Porter would just handle pulling it from a registry and using it.
Nice. Does this also kind of set up the dependency stuff, or is that a separate effort?
It does. Yeah, yeah. So dependencies don't rely on mixins as bundles. They rely on this right here, the bundle workflow.
Well, are you sharing? Yep. I think you.
Oh, I am so sorry. I am sharing the wrong.
I keep seeing your.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
This is what I'm sharing right here. Let me paste this.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Oh man, did I typo Fawn's company name? Frem Yawn. I think that's right. Fermion? Oh, okay. Sorry about that. He'd be so sad if I mess that up. Thanks. Yeah. So here are like the big things I want to see in 2023. Like the sooner in 2023, the better. And this is what we're going to say we're working on for the annual review is advanced dependencies, shipping, kind of like feature flagged. We're going to get enough of this out there that we could then put it behind a feature flag and start using it for other pieces of development that require it. So mixins as bundles requires bundle workflow. Multi-architecture support is another one that we've had a lot of people ask for. They're deploying to ARM environments, and some of the environments where they're running the invocation image, like not just what they're deploying to, but where they're executing Porter is starting to become more and more ARM based for lots of reasons right now with things being faster and cheaper. So we'd like to be able to support that.
I think we're seeing a lot more ARM in the edge too. Mm-hmm. So that would be really, really interesting to see what does Porter Edge look like? Or,
I mean, I don't know. I'd love to.
As we call it, Edge 2.0, right?
Yeah, I don't know what that looks like yet. I just know that I've heard from people in passing that they are trying to do this, that they are using Porter to deploy to edge environments. And
yeah, that's a really interesting use case
from an ARM environment too. So it's just it's hard to get Porter into that environment at this point.
I mean, F5 is all about the next edge stuff. Like that's where a lot of our focus is. So I wonder if I can start having some conversations on what that even looks like from our perspective. Because I mean, we could definitely, bootstrap infrastructure for the edge, but like if you're running on the edge, if you're distributing things at the edge directly as Porter bundles running on whatever architecture is running on the edge. By the way, I have to drop. I've got a hard stop here at 8:30, but I definitely want to sync up with you, Carolyn, to get kind of back in sync. Feel like this summer we've kind of gotten out of touch a little bit with how busy it's been. So
I'm glad you're able to show up today. Really appreciate it.
yep, for sure. All right, I will talk to you later.
Bye. Joshua, did you have any questions or thoughts about what we were going to tell the CNCF about as far as these are the things that we're going to be working on in 2023?
I mean, like, do we have any requirements, like we need to submit these and these and these for? Is this for the incubating or for the yearly reviews?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's kind of two things, and I'm maybe talking about them at the same time, which is confusing. Let me go back to our annual review. I kind of got distracted when talking about the goals. So what we need for the annual review is to speak to the progress we made in this current year. And then we're also going to talk about, and I really need to learn to type these right. Here we go. Our goals for this year, right? We did pretty well on. We got everything we wanted to, except for the porter operator, which we're hoping to ship soon. And so they want us to lay out what are the high level, large units of work or features that we want to ship for the next year. So I want to see a couple things. One, that we get everyone onto V1, right? That we don't end up with anyone stuck on V0. Next would be, we have a stable release of the operator. I'd like to say that's going to be a V1 of the operator. And as you saw, I was talking to Steve, like we're still not 100% sure what needs to be in it in order to say this is ready for people to use, but we want them to be able to use it in production. And then I outlined, this is the stuff that Steve and I were talking about, and I outlined it here in our annual review and explained the features at a high level so people understood why we were interested in these. And essentially it's dependencies and mix-in security by distributing mix-ins as bundles. And then being able to use tools like Notary or Cosign to be able to sign a bundle and then verify that nothing has been tampered with when I run the bundle later. You asked kind of about like requirements. This is what the CNCF wants for incubation, actually, is that we have a release process in place. We have 3 large qualifying adopters. Yeah, and so like if we look at the adopters here, we have Microsoft, and now that it's public and we can talk about it, it's a useful adopter that we can point to. F5 is a public adopter, but we don't really have any description of how they're using that's public yet. So before we would submit, we'd want to have F5 put out some type of explanation that people could use to understand how they're using it. And the scale or scope of like how many environments are using Porter and things like that. Because we wanted to count as like a big installation of Porter, essentially. And to get the third one, we have a couple people who have said that they are adopters, like Think Texture is one, but they don't have a case study out. Ernst & Young, EY, put out a case study this year that we can reference. That's pretty compelling. So I think this would be our third adopter that we would point to and say, we've got this. But the other thing, the really big thing that we need to be able to do is what's called a due diligence process. And that's where we work with the CNCF and they evaluate us from a technical standpoint, from a security standpoint, from a sustainability and governance standpoint. And they evaluate the project as a whole and identify if there are vulnerabilities, weaknesses, or areas that must be addressed before it can be moved into incubation. And that's the part we're missing. So we can kind of anticipate what those things are that they're going to look at, like security, and we need to have those
Right.
addressed first. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've just saw the due diligence document on the apply to CNCF incubation stage issues on the repo, right? And that's pretty lengthy. I think I'll take a look at that first. But can you scroll above a little bit to the 2022 goal?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think for the from my perspective, for the incubation part kind of review, I think we're pretty solid on that. As you mentioned, we've got adopters. We're just waiting for them to mention it publicly. We have the process of various things, and we're tackling all the security issues for the due diligence. And yeah, I think what I'm interested in is that we've mentioned on the 2020 goals points, not just relating to what we're going to add for Porter, like we've promote more contributors, and then perhaps doing it to mention goals that we want to on 2023 besides the features that we're going to add on Porter. Is it needed? I mean, like perhaps we want to reach from this first-time contributors from these numbers to these numbers, or maybe is there any other metrics other than features that we need to consider as a part of the next year's goal?
I don't know. I don't feel that in this area there's like a well-articulated requirement of the types of goals. We can talk about whatever we aspire to. So I'd be happy to include some of these. If you want to help think of some metrics or things that we could report on. So for example, like this one right here, first-time contributors, or perhaps identifying people who started as a first-time contributor who then contributed, say, 3 or more times, turning them into a regular contributor. We could probably report these in our metrics too and demonstrate year over year how we're doing in that regard. That would be really interesting. One thing that they do emphasize is something called maintainer diversity.
Right.
Which we've started to do. What they want to see is that when we list our maintainers, that it doesn't look like Microsoft. They want to see multiple people who are either not affiliated with a company or they're affiliated with different companies. So that there's a strong, stable base where if one company changed their mind, it wouldn't ruin the project, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I think another goal could be to continue improving how many maintainers we have or increasing. Okay.
And I think that's just the thing that pop up in my mind. I mean, like non-feature goals that we want to have next year for the annual or both for the due diligence for the incubating. But other than that, I think it looks pretty solid. And I'll take a read first at the due diligence document, and I'll get back to you if there's anything that I want to convey.
That would be incredibly helpful because I've looked at it and been a little intimidated by it, but I don't have a well-articulated, this is what we need to do to pass and prepare for due diligence.
Right.
Okay. Before I submit this, I'll put this out on a pull request. I'll make sure to tag you on it so that if you want to provide any edits or additional text or anything like that, feel free to help edit this and we'll just kind of collaboratively get it to the point where we could submit it maybe the beginning of November.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Sure. Thank you.
Great. Is there anything else that you had questions about or you wanted to talk about before we end today's meeting?
None so far. I think that looks great.
Okay, great. Oh, this has been a really, really great meeting. Thanks for coming today and providing all this wonderful feedback.
Thank you, Caroline.
Thanks. Have a good one. Bye.
Take care. Bye.